A Manchester City nightmare today. Breaking news. The Premier League has charged Manchester City with over 100 offences of financial fair play. Is this the end of their reign of dominance? Roll the intro. Hello and welcome back to the Lost in Possession podcast. Before we kick things off, as always, around 70% of the people watching this video are not currently subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button. It is free to do so. And also give us a follows on socials. We're on Instagram and now back on TikTok with at least 3 new videos a week. Anyway, let's get to it. So if you haven't already seen, breaking news today, the Premier League have charged or are pressing charges against Man City with over 100 offences related to financial fair play, related to accounting and so-called breaches. So it's got the world talking, it's got social media talking today. Is this the end of Man City? Can they fight this case? Can they win? Or will it go the other way? And will there be points deductions? Will there be well, I'm not going to say they're going to take medals off people. That might be a bit deep, but will their reputation be tarnished? Jamie, we have to start with you. Probably been a tough day, a frustrating day. What's your initial reaction to this?
Um, really, it was a matter of when, because Premier League have been doing this investigation for a while now. I if you just if they wanted to just say they were pressing charges, they might as well have done that on day one. It did not matter what they found or did not find. That was always going to happen. It's funny that it's come out quite quickly when there's now going to be talks within the government of can the Premier League actually regulate itself? So what a coincidence. Let's try and throw everything and the kitchen sink at Man City. I'm not surprised. So yeah, it's one of those things where UEFA have tried it. Now the Premier League are trying it. Someone else will try it, but it's always going to happen to clubs who are owned by non-UK, non-American, non-Western countries. Let's be honest. You could look at Liverpool, you could look at United, Chelsea, and Arsenal. There will be something you could probably find that they're charging City with that they could accuse them clubs of doing. I'm more than certain of that especially over the years. But they're not going to do that. They're not even going to investigate any of those clubs I mentioned. But back to the City one. I know I'm saying this on a YouTube podcast, and it will go on socials, but I'm quietly confident about our chances because of the reaction from City. And so I think we should start off with City's club statement that they've come out, where they've said Man City FC is surprised by the issuing of these alleged breaches of the Premier League rules. They're saying, and then they sort of end it as such, we look forward to this matter being put to rest once and for all. Now that part is normal. You're not going to put a big statement going out. So that part is not what it is. It's the leaks that are coming out from sort of lawyers, high-end people at City. I've already seen several that City are sort of I think laughing at what the allegations were from the Premier League because there's several mistakes in their initial statement. So they're already knowing that they're rushing this. So it's taken them years to put in place and they're still rushing it. Like I previously said, the government talking about regulation for the Premier League, they bring it out. So I don't think the Premier League are properly prepared for what goes on for this. And City will have some of the top lawyers in place. And I also think they've had time to build a case just through the UEFA with CAS. So I think City are going to be fully ready for it. Now, what also gave me sort of some hope for what could be happening is they were talking about the UEFA sort of allegations and how everyone after the CAS ruling was just being like, oh, City got away with it due to the time pressure and the time barred sort of elements. That that UEFA weren't allowed to do it, which the Premier League are. But the sources are coming out saying City are ready to prove that that was a load of crap as well. But due to the court case, they weren't allowed to come out and defend themselves due to the fact that UEFA can appeal to CAS. So I think they're very confident behind closed doors, and I'm not surprised.
Would you see? I don't think you'd ever see a scenario where you look at City and go, "Oh, I think you're guilty." I think a club will always come out and say, "We deny allegations." I don't think a club would ever come out with anything less than confident.
No. But more. So what I've seen from City, and this goes through transfers, this goes through just sort of other things going around the club. City will not have that many leaks. It's very unlikely that City stay quiet unless they want stuff to come out. So the fact is they've got sort of someone who's fairly high up at City coming out saying, "We're ready for this. We're happy to we're ready to beat the allegations of people thinking we only beat UEFA on the time barred." It just brings some confidence.
Yeah, I think the time barring thing is the main issue. I think looking at it earlier, because
the UEFA one, yeah,
because that was basically how you got away with it. That was like the winning argument, if you like.
But no, that's what's come out, and that's why I'm a bit confident, because he's coming out saying we're glad we can now disprove that as a sort of UEFA only lost due to that. They're saying that we're going to win and disprove that part of it as well, which they don't need to do, obviously. Like, they don't need to worry about the UEFA sort of stuff, but that's what I feel like there's the confidence about. But in terms of like the punishment, I think what you were saying, obviously, Sky Sports have said pretty much anything can happen. They have powers to do absolutely everything. And one of the sort of things is what they deem fit, pretty much, as the. But if you're looking across sort of what's happened in the past with other clubs who have broken it and been found guilty, it's normally a points deduction or a fine. And it's also Liverpool fans and United fans are getting, they want City to lose this because they think they get a chance of winning. I think it's 3 titles each. That's what they're hoping for.
Yeah, the Premier League are going to turn up at your former players' houses, take their trophy, take their medals, and give them to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yep, Ollie wins one. Brendan Rodgers wins one. Mourinho gets another one, just at a different club. Look, I found a funnier one actually too, just turning up and taking the medals away. There's even rules that they could make you replay the matches.
No way.
So what we've got to do, we've got to get Aguero out, David Silva back, we'll have all our former players back, and let's see how that goes. But to be honest, all we ask for is just so we don't have to don't make us replay Tottenham away. There's no point. We're not going to score, so let's just forget about that one.
Wait, hold up. You beat him in a Carabao final. Hold on. Could Spurs win a trophy? Breaking news? Could Spurs win a trophy?
Spurs could win a trophy. We beat them in the final. Maybe we don't know.
They'll be claiming that
just Premier. Everyone's obviously just focusing on the Premier League, so maybe it could be even that. But it's just the sort of the replay of matches. God knows how that would work. Like,
no, that's silly.
But it's just funny how it is. And then obviously, you've seen the sort of stuff they're saying. Oh, City could get relegated. And it was funny. I saw a tweet that said City could get relegated and more. And then the comment just behind it was like, "What are they going to round up all the City supporters and then shoot them behind Mary D's?" City fans will get the reference. It's just comical. It's comical what people are coming up with.
Well, I'll give you a list. I'll entertain that for a minute. I'll give you a few bullet points on what they could do. Or what they're allowed to do, apparently. So, suspend a club from playing league matches altogether. So, I don't know how that would work. A points deduction is probably the most obvious and likely one. Reese will come to you in a second, because that could have ridiculous implications on the title race. Recommend to the board that league matches be replayed, as you've just said. The league expels the club I mean, that would be where I don't know what that would mean. Would you get relegated or just, back in League Two, playing Wrexham maybe in the National League? Imagine
This
that.
is that's what I've said at work. Can't wait to go Wrexham away.
Obviously, play,
Haaland versus Mullin.
and then conditional punishment. They've said, which sounds pretty brutal, but that could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
Which I guess is what you just said. But I think out of all of those ones, the points deduction is probably the most likely.
It's that or a fine, isn't it?
That's a fine.
Two likely ones. So that's what I'm saying. Likeliness.
A fine is the most pointless thing for obvious reasons. Reese, we'll come to you. Let's entertain this idea that City could be deducted points. I mean, you might be deducted points. You might be level on points with us, even if you got about 20 points off.
Well, I did want to say that before we talk about sort of what it could mean to Arsenal. If City got the 15-point deduction that Juve got, we're still ahead of Liverpool and Chelsea.
Fucking hell. That's bad.
Joint points with Chelsea, but better goal difference. Obviously.
Oh, joint. All right, that's fine. I can live with that. The battle for 8th place. Let's have it. Reese, go on. 15 points. That would put you quite a lot of points ahead.
Yeah, it would, but you need to understand that that Man United are then back in the picture, aren't they? They're on 42 points currently, so that just puts them 8 points behind. I know they've beaten Man City this season themselves, so I don't really think there's anything for us fans to get that excited about. Like, as nice as you think it would be, it's not what is gonna happen. Like, I'll say what my opinion is in a minute, but it just bumps Man United back up, and with the form they're in lately, I don't think you want to, you don't want to bet against them going on a late surge, do you? So, yeah, I don't really think it's massive big deal. I don't really think it gives Arsenal an advantage in any case, and I just think it's all a non-story, to be honest. I don't see anything coming of it. I don't, the league tried so hard to try and stop a Super League, but it only seems to be doing things to push teams closer towards one. What are they going to do? Why would they expel Man City from the league, one of the biggest earners, one of the biggest attractions for clubs? That's not going to achieve anything. Why would they give them a points deduction? City will probably find a way to take them to court if they're not allowed to appeal it. And then what? And then what do they do? They give them a fine. What's the point in that? If you're supposed to be one of the richest clubs in the world, a fine is just it's probably not even worth them trying to make that money back, because they'll make it back within about 2 seconds. It's a waste of time. All it does is encourage a formation of a Super League, which I've spoken about before. But it pushes the clubs towards that way. It's a non-story. Nothing is going to happen. City would have known this was probably pending against them. If they do it to Man City, they're going to have to investigate everybody, as far as I'm concerned. And I guarantee that probably most of the clubs in the Premier League at this moment in time are probably shredding some documents. They're probably a little bit concerned. But it's a non-story. There isn't going to be a points deduction. I'm sorry. I know Arsenal fans probably want that to help them win the league, but come on, I'm sure Arsenal will find some way to self-implode themselves. Don't worry about that.
But even with that sort of the points deduction, let's say that's what the overall outcome will be. It's not going to be this season. Like this isn't going to be over. City aren't just going to go. City aren't going to go. This is my argument. Yes, no. Like, here's the sort of thing. It's probably going to take another year or two, maybe even longer.
Process, yeah. It's going to be a long, costly process, like for both parties. It's just not. It sounds silly, but I just don't see anything coming of it. I just think they should just look at it and go, you know what? What's the point? Like, who is going to? We all know who's going to win.
And all if it does come down to sort of what you're saying there is, and let's say it comes down to who's got the bigger cost, it's going to be Premier League then trying to save face, going, we can't. This is the only sort of negative I have of it. The Premier League can't afford to have this as a complete lose. If City get away with no fine, nothing, that's also huge in a way of they clearly can't regulate themselves. But I think this is something, I think I've heard Neville talk about it before. There should be some sort of other regulator who's not sort of, it has don't have their interests in the Premier League. So I think an external regulator could be beneficial just for the grand scheme of things, but that's what the Premier League are going to be worried of. So the fact that this might get settled in a way where they'll go City pay a fine of 50 million, I think could be very likely because both want to save face. Like City obviously don't want a points deduction, don't want any sort of ban of any sort of kind. Then they get the worst sort of ones down the list. A fine means very little, like to the money that City have, because I think QPR were sort of one who got done with the EFL with financial fair play. They got fined 50 million in the end, I believe. They're still paying it back. I don't know what it was, but they're paying it back. So it's sort of, that's something that's a likely outcome. That's why I think that's why obviously everyone blows up like they did when we got the Champions League one. Was everyone was like, oh, they're going to be knocked out of the competition, ban them from this, ban them from that, blah blah blah, and then it was a fine where they tried to do 30 million. It got even reduced even further. So that's what I see as the likeliest outcome. But it doesn't matter. We'll go to Wrexham away in League Two, and it'll be Haaland versus Mullin. What a beast of two strikers that could be.
You won't be able to pay his wages
on current form. It's a no contest, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, he might have a shot against Wrexham.
No, oh God, I was going to just say it is an example of the Premier League trying to say we don't need an independent regulator, because if an independent regulator comes in, he's right. They'll take no prisoners. You know, they won't. They'll look at it and go, well, why won't we ban Man City from the league? You know, they're not going to be afraid to make those decisions because probably they're not going to look at that picture as the Premier League can't afford to upset the big guns. And it's a situation that the league has created itself over time, and it's only got itself to blame. This sort of thing should have been issued years ago. I know you can't necessarily picture big money like it is now, but the reason they formed the Premier League was to make big money. So I don't know why they're so surprised that it's all happening now. The league probably should be looking at themselves.
But they're also like, going back to the financial fair play sort of side of it, the only reason why it was brought in is because Chelsea started upsetting the apple cart of United, Liverpool, Arsenal. Then they went, right, okay, one team's done it. We can't have this again. Let's try and put in things. That's why it was introduced, because Chelsea started upsetting everyone, going, right, we're going to buy this player, that player, and then start doing really well, breaking records.
20 years later, we still got the world on strings.
Well, you did spend
the new owner
500 million in January, for God's sake.
Well, it's not 500 mil, you see. It's actually it's about 36 mil amortized. So
yeah, 36 mil over 27 years.
Maybe City lawyers should have a word with Bowley, because he seems to put a middle finger up to FFP and found a couple loopholes.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But I think your point is right. Sorry to cut in. I think your point about the Premier League and the fine is spot on, because there's no situation where the Premier League's going to go, yeah, we screwed up, we lost, and because we're already getting talks, to bring in Chelsea and Bowley, we're already getting complaints and all the rest of it about that. And it is basically then just a green light. If the Premier League lose, a green light to all these clubs to say, we're not going to win, do what you want. And I think a fine kind of goes, yeah, no, we're winning, but we're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it really is sort of, that's the way it will come across. Obviously, you've got it is sort of something unprecedented, this being 100 odd charges. But like, I truly believe it's just the Premier League trying to make a statement for what this sort of the government looking at regulations for the Premier League. And once again, City are at the front of it. Like they go for the big easy target, and that will always be us. Like it was too late to go for Chelsea. Chelsea had obviously the other problems with Abramovich, but that was due to a war rather than just how they spent money. Like, if you're looking at what the Premier League should be doing, is looking at who are fit and right owners. That's what they should be there for, and making sure everything's fair. But they've not done that. I think, if you look at the way the Glazers have bought United and run that company, like United as a company, it's not great for football reasons. So the Premier League have messed up, and I think I agree with Reese was saying they've built this to try and make money, and now they're making money and getting in billionaires, possibly even trillionaires at one point. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah, it's true. And the problem is, where do you draw the line? And we've said this with FFP for years. What is the purpose of FFP? Because it has been, historically, it has been, and it still is, being made a mockery of. And that's coming from a Chelsea and City fan who you can argue have benefited from some of this the most. But you can't stop club spending, and you can't just go, oh, Man United and Liverpool, obviously the better example, but we're entitled to just dominate the league forever. No, I say no.
No. The best example is Real Madrid, Barcelona. That's the best example of, let's keep them at the top. Let's keep them getting into it. I think it's also, you can look at Serie A with the Milan clubs not being as successful as they once were. They're still getting, like, you see the way that Champions League has been changed and things like that. It's all to try and appease these big, huge historical clubs, and they don't want teams like City coming from mid-table the Premier League for 3 of the last 4 titles or whatever it is. And that's what they're worried about. And they've seen Newcastle now take over. There's going to be more. And that's what they're completely worried about. But then watch when Liverpool gets taken over by one. Watch when United do. They're both up for sale. Watch when they get taken over. Oh, that's fine. Do what you want because of who they are. They don't want teams coming up like City have. Less so Chelsea, because you were much more involved in the top 4 races before. But it's hypocrites all over, really, let's be honest. And that's why this fine's coming in place. It wouldn't happen to Arsenal, it wouldn't happen to Liverpool, and it wouldn't happen to United. And I don't think anyone can change my opinion on that, because I think that's the full truth.
No, it is a fair point. Like, I look at things and say, if anything comes of this and City do get a fine, if anything, that's better for Man United and Liverpool, because no doubt if City get punished, then the league are probably going to pounce for everybody else. So that's what you don't want. As in reality, if City get the unimaginable done to them, a lot of other clubs are going to probably start panicking and realizing, okay, it's happened to them. What now? If they want to make an example of City, then they will, but they won't, because every sort of contract or policy you bring in, there's always a loophole. Okay, regardless of what this is, even if City just say, look, we did this because of this, because there's a loophole, then close that loophole. But you can't punish City for that because they've not broken any laws at the time. No matter what you do, no matter what you lay out, there will always be somewhere to get around it. That's just what it is. Well, that's just how it works. It's just a waste of time.
You make a very good point, because I think this has come to light recently with, again, going back to sort of what Bowley's done with the long contracts. So, Enzo, as we know, was 100 mil, et cetera. But because of the 8-year deal, it works out about 13 mil a season. So we've only spent 13 mil on Enzo in this window. But the problem with them trying to change and adjust is that, in theory, Bowley's done this. He's found the loophole. The world now knows. What they're trying to do is react and go, oh, well, we're going to close that loophole so no one else can do it. But actually, there's a case to say, well, now are you actually disadvantaging now everyone else? Because now we've done it and no one else can do it. In obviously, it will take time. But so there comes a point where they've got to decide how they want to do it. Because by changing it and trying to adapt and sort of chase their tail, they might actually be making things worse.
No, it's absolutely true. No, go on, Jamie, please. Go
on. No. I was literally say absolutely. That's kind of how I see it. It's constant. One team can do it, right? Let's stop that. and it's just they're trying to block. It's just trying to put barricades up to stop teams trying to compete.
No, it's absolutely right, and I think if you want to see something that could be the start or a catalyst for a Super League to go through, this is probably it. Okay. I know La Liga have already, the president of La Liga has already been talking about this City situation. I don't really care.
He's an idiot, let's be honest.
I don't care what he says, but this is a catalyst for a Super League. Okay. Yeah, you punish City, what they'll do? Well, should we start this Super League then? At the end of the day, the Premier League was started because it's like a Super League idea. They wanted all this money. The 5 clubs that wanted the biggest slice of the pie were Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, Everton, and Spurs. They were the 5 clubs that wanted this. They got it, and funnily enough, it's not really working out for any of them right now, is it? So, Liverpool, they've only won it once. Man United won it 13 times, haven't won it in over 10 years. Arsenal haven't won it in nearly 20 years. Spurs haven't won it at all, and Everton have been closer to relegation than they have the top 4. So now they're not getting their slice of the pie. Of course, owners change, attitudes change, blah 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 blah. But the big it becomes a top 4. They're all loving it. It's all great. It becomes a top 6. Oh, that's okay. We've got a couple of positions might have to play about with. You watch, they'll start giving the Champions League slots to the top 6 teams. Oh, another team gets taken over. Oh, it becomes a top 7. It becomes a problem. Todd Bowley's done what he's done because he's following an exact American example. Keep your assets safe. It's just going to catalyst for it more and more. You're going to then lose the relegation stuff. So every owner's kept happy because they don't lose money on their asset. No one goes down. So even if you don't get the top 4, it's just a waste of time. And if the Premier League really want to spark it, then go for it. But don't complain when all you're going to be left with, are the ashes. And it's just such a waste of time, this whole argument, and I just don't see them winning it.
So I just want to go back to obviously the City sort of part of it getting charged. The funny thing I'm seeing in articles now is the independent commission, whoever will be sort of the chairman, is actually an Arsenal member. So he's very much got an interest in this season it happening, the points deduction, I think. So maybe they will win no matter what.
He shouldn't be allowed in whatever investigating process, by the way. You can't have a bias or anything like that. He should, no chance.
This also goes with the external regulator. I know you will have people who support a club because football's such a followed sport. But to actually have someone who's a member of Arsenal,
I don't think he'll have he won't have a decided say. It'll be like a vote or whatever.
So he chooses the panel that will say whether they're guilty or not guilty, kind of thing. So he's not someone who has that option to go find them, give them this, give them that. But he has some influence. But that's where it shouldn't happen.
I would say that he shouldn't be involved if it's involving a rival club. Personally, I also think I have full faith in him to carry out a fair and proper investigation.
I don't know it. It's just something.
This is why it needs an independent one. Probably is desperately needed because it will clamp down, and no matter how harsh it gets, at least every club's going to be in line. And it might make the league more competitive as a result. Because it's not really competitive technically as it is. One David beating Goliath one game a season doesn't win him a league, does it? So. You never know.
Yeah, and just I guess to finalise on that, I think if it's already on Twitter that he's an Arsenal fan, I think he'd actually be under more pressure to conduct a fair investigation. And just I guess one final question before we wrap up: is there a solution to this moving forward? Is there a solution to FFP? Is there a solution to any of this, or do we just carry on as normal? Jamie, I'll come to you first.
It shouldn't be in the place, it shouldn't be there in the first place. It was brought in to, like I said, protect the higher up teams, the bigger clubs. Let it happen. Let it go on. We want to see. I just don't. Yeah, I'd get rid of it altogether. You've just got to make sure the owners are fit and proper, and there should be some sort of money backed to not allow clubs to get into debt. Really, and you don't want to see the Bury situation. That's all they should be able to do.
Reese?
Yeah, I think whatever they bring in place, there'll always be loopholes or ways of getting around it. That's just how life is. I don't see the Premier League winning this. But if they are guilty, City, if it does become a guilty verdict, then is reality of fine going to be enough? If you want to show that this is the point, then you've got to show it, and that goes for every single club, and every club should also be making sure that they are abiding by the rules.
Agreed, and from my side as well, I think that the main point is you've got to check the owners are fit for purpose, and that will then solve, I think, a lot of the issues we're seeing. But that is all we have time for today. As always, particularly Man City fans, maybe Arsenal fans, if you think you're going to win the league on a points deduction, let us know your thoughts in the comments. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe.
Here we go.